Hello Rahetalius. This may sound a bit strange, yet I'm absolutely serious about this. I was wondering if you could give an old player some Vauban lessons. My IGN is and I'm MR25. If you could find some time to teach me some primed CC mastery, I'd be very much obliged.
He's beginning to believe.
The first question on your mind is probably, why should I play Vauban, when so many other Warframes exist that have CC and also other great abilities? The answer for that is simple. It's because you're not a bitch. Truth be told, Vauban is non-meta for a reason. He can't heal, he can't shield, he can't tank, and he can't buff. So what exactly does he have going for him? Vauban is the only Warframe in the game whose abilities are all one-handed actions. This means that you're free to use any of your abilities while shooting, reloading, running, basically while doing anything. Being able to cast abilities while shooting is a bigger deal than you think, because one-handed actions don't leave you invulnerable casting animations. His abilities ignore enemy level. It doesn't matter if you're playing on Earth or on a level 80 sortie, if you throw a vortex, whoever's on the receiving end of it is going to get dragged on, unless a nullifier happens to be around. Besides Tesla, all of his abilities will do what they're supposed to do, no matter where you happen to be playing. He doesn't cast his abilities, he throws them. Warframes like Frost and Rhino have to be near enemies or objectives in order to make the most use of their abilities. Vauban doesn't have to be. So long as Vauban is in the same room, he really doesn't have to worry about not being within ability range. Granted, this means you have to learn Vauban's throwing arc, but once you learn it, you never really have to worry about not being close enough to use your abilities. What does he have going against him? Vauban lacks any healing, tanking, buffing, or direct damage abilities. If you take Vauban to a squad, you're basically telling everyone, I don't need damage abilities. I am the damage ability. Because of this, some people might be a bit upset at you for playing Vauban, because he's not exactly the best choice for CC anymore. Vauban players are a dying breed. As a result, people will assume you're some old veteran trying to stay relevant in the ever-shifting meta. Unless you're one of the few super fucking dedicated Vauban mains, nobody will really take you seriously. If anyone gives you a hard time, just remember to dab on them haters. He's squishy. Because Vauban lacks any innate survivability or damage, his kit relies solely on player skill in order to survive at high levels. This makes Vauban kind of a high skill cap Warframe to play at high levels, purely because he blows up rather easily. Now for actually playing Vauban. If you're new to Vauban, I highly recommend you start with this build until you get used to him. Feel free to modify it to suit your needs, but if you're planning on taking Vauban to sorties or other high level areas, you're going to need 3 things. Quick Thinking, to help keep you alive, Pain Threshold, to reduce the stagger animation from Quick Thinking, and Arcane Energize, to help feed you energy, which will keep you alive. Just keep in mind that this build isn't the end-all be-all for Vauban. Shred isn't strong enough with this build to be worth using, and Tesla won't be doing any damage outside of level 15. Because Vauban is really easy to kill in levels beyond 80, you're gonna want to always keep moving no matter what. I know that his Bastille and Vortex make camping be rather tempting, but given that Vauban's stats make him rip just as easily as paper, that's not worth the risk. If you're not new to Vauban or if you're feeling a little adventurous, try using Power Strength Vauban. While you sacrifice survivability and a bit of range and efficiency, you gain the ability to nullify enemy armor with Shred. Power Strength Vauban isn't a build I would recommend taking unless you're really good at not dying, because this build makes you go from paper to paper soaked in gasoline. Now let's give a quick rundown of each ability. With the recent changes, Tesla becomes a decent CC ability when fully charged. Even with a Power Strength build, Tesla is not very good for damage. It is however, Good for defending small areas such as interception consoles or slowing down enemies coming through doors. Try using them in interception especially, the game basically plays itself. Mine Layer is Vauban's mixed bag of toys. The game might tell you they're mines or traps, but don't be fooled. Mine Layer works best when used as grenades thrown on the fly, but even then, each grenade has a different use. Don't ever use bounce. Seriously. This ability is trash, and with the recent Tesla changes, it's not even good for interception anymore. Never use this ability. Trip Laser gets a lot of shit from people, including me, for being a gimmick, and it kind of is. However, Trip Laser is useful in two ways, playing against infested, or for using the Trip Laser trick, which I'll get into later. Because infested enemies are generally all melee, Trip Laser becomes especially useful, since enemies will just run into it blindly, allowing you to get some easy kills. Shred is only good when you run the power strength build, because otherwise the debuff amount is too low to make proper use of it. Even then, Shred is pretty self-explanatory. Throw at an armored enemy, and kill them. You'll only ever really use Shred with the power strength build, and even then, only against Grineer or corrupted enemies. Shred becomes especially good when combined with another ability, which I'll get into later. Concuss is easily the best grenade in Mine Layer. Concuss functions as a very quick and cheap oh-shit panic button, by allowing you to draw enemy aggro away from yourself. Concuss becomes especially powerful in high levels, where the radiation proc it applies will save you from the high damage bullets of enemies. Bastille is Vauban's signature move, and for good reason. Throwing it creates an area of effect that forcefully suppresses enemies, allowing you to get easy headshots for easy kills. It's pretty self-explanatory. Vortex is Vauban's alternate to his Bastille. A lot of people argue that Vortex is contradictory to Bastille because it does the same thing. While both abilities are hard CC, they each have their own uses. Bastille is used for when you need to quickly suppress a dispersed crowd of enemies. Vortex is used for when you need to quickly suppress a mob of enemies. Weapons that can hit multiple enemies such as the Archoplasma work really well with Vortex. Now that the basics are out of the way, let's talk about some tips and tricks. To counter the charge time for Tesla, you have two options. You can either take Natural Talent, which will cut the charge time in half and allow you to throw your abilities a little bit faster, or rebind your first ability to a different key or use a mouse with buttons on the side. Trust me when I say, using Tesla with mouse buttons makes a world of a difference, as you are not slowed down. The Trip Laser trick allows you to keep enemies affected by Trip Laser for as long as it lasts. To perform it, all you have to do is throw down a Trip Laser. Enemies that are running will get caught and grounded, and they will remain permanently grounded until Trip Laser expires. The Trip Laser trick is rather overlooked because Trip Laser is considered to be useless, which it kind of is outside of survival. However, when used, the Trip Laser trick performs even better than Bastille, because Trip Laser is cheaper, has a higher duration, and doesn't have an enemy cap like Bastille. The Vortex and Shred combo I'm pretty sure is already known, but I'll cover it anyway. If you're using the Power Strength Vauban build, then by combining Vortex with Shred, you can apply Shred onto multiple enemies at once, allowing you to very efficiently kill a group of high-level armored enemies. Area of effect weapons work particularly well with this combo. Bastille is not a ring. It's actually a tower. Bastille ignores environmental boundaries and affects all enemies in the vertical axis, meaning that you can treat it less like a ring and more like a tower. In other words, when you throw Bastille, everything within the area, no matter how high or low it is, will be suspended. As long as they're inside the Bastille. You don't have to throw your Bastille directly at enemies to get it to work. As long as it's above or below, it still works. That's all you really need to know. Hopefully this guide helps you get better at Vauban or at least piques your interest. Thank you for watching.